Imagine this, your $250,000 dream wedding is hours away. The flowers are perfect, the guests are flying in, the champagne is chilling. You're in your silk robe, about to slip into the most expensive dress you've ever owned, when you open a hotel room door and see your fiancé tangled up in bed with your maid of honor. My stomach didn't just drop, it felt like it split in half. But instead of screaming, I did something else. I made one phone call. And that one call destroyed everything they thought they were about to get away with. If you've ever been betrayed so deeply you could taste it, this story's for you. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you love watching karma strike in real time. And buckle up. Because this isn't just a breakup story, it's a surgical strike of revenge. My name's Alexandra, but everyone calls me Alex. I used to believe in picture-perfect love stories. The ones where two people meet, fall in love, and just fit. That's how I thought it was with Justin. Justin was the kind of guy you could take anywhere. He had that charming, easy smile, a way of making people feel like they'd known him for years. I met him at a charity gala my company sponsored. I was there representing my father's luxury interior design firm. He was there networking for his marketing agency. I remember him offering to get me a drink, and instead of asking what I wanted, he said, "I'll surprise you, trust me." And I did. That night, and for 3 years after. Heather had been my best friend since I was 16. She was the one who snuck me into concerts, helped me dye my hair in her mom's bathroom, held my hand through my first breakup. She knew everything about me. Every insecurity, every dream. She was the obvious choice for my maid of honor. When Justin proposed, Heather cried harder than I did. She helped me pick my dress, organized the bachelorette trip to Greece, and even offered to handle wedding day chaos so I could relax. We were planning the wedding of the year. My parents spared no expense. A 5-star hotel ballroom dripping in crystal chandeliers, imported peonies, a 12-piece orchestra for the ceremony. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a social event. People I hadn't seen in years were flying in just to witness it. At first, planning the wedding felt like living in a fairy tale. My Pinterest boards were overflowing, Heather was buzzing with ideas, and Justin, well, he played the part of the perfect fiancé. But little things started to slip. Justin used to call me during lunch breaks just to hear my voice. Now, his meetings always seemed to run long. He'd glance at his phone mid-dinner, typing quick replies before sliding it face down on the table. One night, I caught a faint perfume on his shirt, not mine, not the brand I wore every day. I asked about it, and he laughed. Probably from someone at the office, he said, kissing my forehead like I was being silly. Heather was just as off. She used to be the girl who'd roll into my apartment in leggings and an old hoodie, hair in a messy bun. But lately, she was showing up to fittings in silk blouses, with fresh blowouts and that lip gloss that caught the light every time she smiled. It was subtle, but it bothered me in ways I couldn't name. The worst part, they seemed closer than I was with either of them. At a cake tasting, I looked over and saw Justin brushing frosting off Heather's lip with his thumb. She giggled, swatting his hand playfully. I laughed along, but something in me tightened. At the rehearsal dinner, I spotted them in the corner, heads bent together over something on her phone. When I walked over, they pulled apart too quickly. Heather said, "Just showing him the playlist for tomorrow." Justin smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. The night before the wedding, Justin texted me. "Hey, babe. I think I'm going to stay in my room alone tonight. Just need to clear my head before tomorrow. Don't take it the wrong way." It was strange. Traditionally, the groom spends the night with the groomsmen. But I didn't push it. "Sure," I replied. "Get some rest." An hour later, Heather offered to swing by Justin's room in the morning to check on him before the ceremony. She framed it like she was doing me a favor. I told her it wasn't necessary, but she smiled and said, "Don't worry, it'll just be a minute." At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now, I realize that was the moment the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. I just didn't know it yet. The morning of the wedding should have been the happiest day of my life. I woke up in the bridal suite, sunlight spilling through sheer curtains, the air heavy with the sweet scent of fresh orchids. The makeup artist was blending foundation on my skin, my hairdresser's curling iron hissed softly in the background. Bridesmaids chatted around me, champagne glasses clinked, and someone was playing an acoustic version of Can't Help Falling in Love on a speaker. It felt perfect. Until I realized I'd left my vow book in Justin's room. It wasn't just paper, it was everything. My promises, my heart in ink. I couldn't walk down the aisle without it. I slipped on my white silk robe, tied the sash tight, and told Heather I'd be back in 10 minutes. She didn't even look up from her phone, just gave me a quick, "Sure, babe." The hallway to Justin's room was quiet, the kind of hush that makes your own breathing sound too loud. My heels sank into the thick carpet as I walked, my pulse oddly quick for such a simple errand. When I reached his door, I knocked once. No answer. I tried again, louder. Still nothing. My hand closed around the handle. It turned easily. The room was dim, blackout curtains drawn halfway. A faint, musky heat hung in the air, mixed with the scent of something sweet, vanilla, maybe. Not mine. And then my eyes focused. Justin. Shirtless. Leaning back against the headboard. Heather. My best friend, tangled in the white sheets beside him, her bare shoulder peeking out. Her lipstick was smeared. Her hair a messy halo against the pillow. For a second, I couldn't move. It was like my body had been cut away from my brain. My chest tightened, my vision tunneled, and my ears rang so loud I could barely hear her voice when she said, "Alex, it's not what it looks like." I blinked, once, twice. My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed glass. "Get dressed," I said, my voice low and steady. "Both of you. Now." I didn't wait for them to answer. I turned on my heel, stepped back into the hallway, and closed the door with a quiet click. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. This wasn't the kind of wound you scream over. This was the kind that turns you cold. I stood in the hallway, the heavy hotel door clicking shut behind me. For a moment, I just breathed. In. Out. The anger wasn't hot. It was glacial. The kind of cold that sharpens your thoughts instead of clouding them. I pulled my phone from the pocket of my robe and scrolled to the one person I knew would move mountains for me. First call, my father. He answered on the second ring. "Sweetheart, everything okay?" My voice was calm, almost too calm. "Dad, cancel everything. Pull the payments. Venue, catering, flowers, shut it all down. The wedding's not happening." Silence for 2 beats. Then his voice, clipped and certain. "Understood. I'll take care of it." He didn't ask why. My father didn't need details to go to war for me. Second call, the hotel manager. I dialed the direct line to the front desk. When the manager answered, I didn't waste words. "This is Alexandra Hartman, bride in Suite 802. Strip the bridal suite charges from my account, reassign the honeymoon suite to my parents, and make sure neither Justin Cole nor Heather Moore can make charges anywhere on this property." "Of course, Ms. Hartman. I'll handle it immediately." Third call, Justin's boss. The last number was my uncle's. The man who had given Justin his job. Who had vouched for him in front of the entire board. He picked up with his usual booming cheer. "Alex. Big day, huh?" I kept my voice even. "Uncle Mark. Justin cheated on me. This morning. With my maid of honor." The warmth vanished from his tone. "You're kidding." "I wish I was. Thought you should know before the wedding guests find out." His voice was pure steel. "Consider him unemployed. Effective immediately." I slipped my phone back into my robe pocket, exhaled slowly, and headed back toward the bridal suite. By the time Justin and Heather walked out of that room, their world would already be crumbling. I returned to the bridal suite as if nothing had happened. The makeup artist glanced up from adjusting a bridesmaid's eyeliner and smiled, completely unaware the wedding was already dead. In the corner, my phone buzzed twice, both from my dad. First text, catering cancelled. Venue cleared. Vendors informed. Second text, done. 10 minutes later, I heard the click of the elevator doors at the end of the hall. Justin stepped out first, shirt rumpled, hair combed in a hurry. Heather trailed behind in yesterday's clothes, makeup smudged but lips freshly glossed, a pathetic attempt at damage control. They stopped dead when they saw the scene. Half the floral arrangements were already being carted out. The cake table stood empty, a lonely white cloth draped over it. Musicians were wheeling their instruments toward the service exit. Guests in cocktail dresses and suits milled around, murmuring, confused. Justin's eyes darted to me. "Alex, what's going on?" I didn't look up from the coffee cup in my hand. "You'll figure it out." Heather stepped forward, forcing a smile. "Okay, let's not be dramatic. We can talk about this. It was a mistake." I cut her off, my voice low enough that only they could hear.
You think this is drama? This is logistics.
And you're both already obsolete.
Justin reached for my hand.
Please, just. I pulled my engagement ring off in one slow, deliberate motion. The diamond caught the hallway light for a heartbeat before I dropped it onto the carpet between us. It hit with a muted thud that somehow felt louder than any shout. The way you wanted me to find out was never. But I'm glad I did, before I made the worst mistake of my life. Behind them, a hotel staff member wheeled away the champagne tower. My father emerged from the elevator, spoke briefly with the head chef, and then gave me a nod. In that moment, I realized Justin and Heather weren't just losing me. They were losing everything. By the next morning, the whispers had already turned into headlines in our social circle. Bride cancels $250,000 wedding at the last minute. Maid of honor caught in hotel scandal.
But the real blows were still coming.
At 9:15 a.m., my uncle called to close the loop as he put it. Justin's done here, Alex.
Security escorted him out this morning.
No severance. Apparently, word about the scandal spread fast through the office, especially since my uncle didn't exactly keep the reason under wraps. By lunch, Justin's LinkedIn profile had gone dark. Heather's fiancé, oh yes, she had won, found out within hours. A mutual friend texted him a blurry photo of Heather leaving Justin's room in the same dress she'd worn the night before.
He didn't even call her.
Just dropped her belongings at her mother's house and blocked her on everything. Our social group wasn't huge, and loyalty runs deep. The people who had been Justin and Heather's ride or dies were suddenly remembering times they'd crossed boundaries, said inappropriate things, or flirted when they shouldn't have.
The betrayal had tainted every memory.
By the end of the week, they were ghosted from every group chat, every dinner invite.
Remember the $250,000 wedding?
The venue had a strict non-refundable deposit policy. But my father, being the savvy businessman he is, had a clause in the contract stating the payment was contingent on the wedding proceeding as planned. Since it was cancelled due to Justin's actions, we sued him for his share of the losses. And we won. Justin, now unemployed, had to liquidate assets to pay it off. He sold his car, drained his savings, and still owed money. By the end of it all, they weren't just exposed, they were stripped of every safety net they thought they had. I, on the other hand, walked away with my dignity intact, my family behind me, and a very expensive wedding dress that I planned to sell to fund a solo trip to Italy.
Sometimes revenge isn't loud.
Sometimes it's quiet, surgical, and leaves nothing standing. When I look back, it's not the scandal itself that shocks me most, it's how many people thought they could play with someone's trust and never face the consequences. Justin and Heather didn't just betray me, they betrayed the entire foundation of family and friendship.
And here's the truth I learned.
Sometimes, the best revenge isn't shouting, screaming, or throwing punches, it's letting the truth stand bare for the world to see.
Letting people destroy themselves with their own choices. I didn't have to make up a single lie or twist a single fact. I just opened the door and let reality walk in.
And when it did, it burned everything they'd built to the ground. Now, they live in the wreckage they created, while I moved forward, stronger, calmer, and a little more cautious with who I trust.
Some wounds heal.
Others become warnings.
So, what would you have done in my place?
Would you have kept the secret to protect your family's image, or burned it all down like I did?
Drop your thoughts in the comments.
And remember, sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's just the calm before a storm.